This is Meet the Movie Press. It is August the 9th, 2019. On the show today, Disney reboot Home Alone. Snipes is coming to America. How do you solve a problem like Annapurna? The week's box office, plus reviews of The Kitchen, scary stories, and more. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies. And now, here's Popcorn Talk's Meet the Movie Press.
This is Meet the Movie Press. It is August the 9th, 2019. Hello, thank you for joining us. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be here. This would be completely futile, so thank you for joining in. If you'd like to take part in the chat, you can. If you're watching us live on YouTube, go in there, have a chat already in there this morning. Chad Schultz, Goldman Vision, good morning to you. Dr. Pecker, and Kame Egan and BlackRock 3160 already in there. You guys are the reason we do this show, so having you in the chat and contributing is really important to us. On the show today, my panel, Scott Menzel and Joe, who are you? If people don't know, I was going to introduce you. People don't know who you are. Who are you? Where can we find you?
Joe Deckelmeier, ScreenRant.com, and also that hashtag show. We're covering a lot of movies.
I was going to say, you guys are super busy right now.
Yeah, I just got back from Miami for Marlon Wayne's
I'm really
film.
sorry about that.
Yeah, we talked about that. If you like The Nutty Professor, then hey.
Well, I mean, that was great 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And Scott Menzel is back on the show. Scott, who are you? Where can we find you, please?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at TheOtherScottM and also at WeLiveEntertainment.com.
And my name is Simon Thompson. You can find me at ShowbizSimon on Instagram, Twitter, and my Facebook page is This Is Simon Thompson. Everybody, thank you for joining on the show. It's silly season, so it's not exactly the busiest period of movie news right now. Bit of a quiet week, but a couple of really interesting things to talk about. Let's first of all talk about Disney announcing that they're going to reboot Fox's Home Alone, Night at the Museum, and more for Disney+. A lot of people got very upset about this week. I actually wrote a piece for Forbes when the Disney Fox deal was kind of happening, about various properties that Fox have that I think Disney would look at as things that they could either reboot or revisit. Also this week we saw that Disney is looking at doing something else with the Apes franchise that was there quite recently, which kind of, the last one wasn't appreciated. But they're going deep into the archives. Home Alone, first of all. Okay, Joe, let's go to you first of all on this. Your thoughts on Home Alone
I'm
being rebooted?
You know what? I'm all about a Home Alone reboot. I don't have a problem with it. The originals were great. Well, there was
first two.
There was a Home Alone 3, right?
And a 4.
And a 5, I think.
Is there a 5 too?
There was a load of them that went straight to DVD.
How can people be mad about a reboot when we got Home Alone 3 through 5?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, it's not that big of a deal. But I'm excited for what Disney Plus is going to be bringing to the table, because I think it's going to be a legitimate game changer.
Yeah. Scott, your thoughts on this? Did you have a particular attachment to Home Alone? Because sometimes we do.
I mean, we all grew up with those movies. I mean, you posted something about John Hughes this week on Twitter, and you know that was my legend growing up. You know, I grew up watching John Hughes movies. So when you talk about redoing something that he's done, it's a little sensitive, but at the same time, it's Disney at this point, and they are unstoppable, and they're going to remake everything.
Yeah.
So I just have to shut the hell up, because they're going to do it.
But whatever we think and whatever we say is not going to stop the behemoth that is the Mouse House.
I am upset, though, that they're trying to act like, because we had Stuber and Dark Phoenix, like, we have to scrap everything. Like, that is complete bullshit. Like, how many studios have 1 or 2 flops a year, but still, could come out of the gate strong? And with Avengers, Captain Marvel, and then, Star Wars at the end of the year.
Well, also, we're not even talking about, what else is Frozen is still coming out?
Yeah, Frozen. Like the Lion King making so much money. Aladdin made more than they projected. Like, come on, guys. Like, we lost 200. Like, that's nothing in your wheelhouse.
That's a tax write-off, essentially.
We're actually going to talk more about that in just a second. But with the reboot thing, I mean, some people were quite surprised that they were doing it. I am not at all surprised, because the whole idea of the deal of Disney buying Fox was the assets, what they have as a studio, the properties, and obviously bringing things together, like some of the Marvel movies that they had. A Night at the Museum is another one that that they're planning to remake on the Disney Plus service. I mean, a lot of people didn't get particularly emotional about that. And again, I spoke to Sean Levy about this probably about 18 months ago now, around the time of the second season of Stranger Things. Again, you can go back and read this interview on Forbes. And Night at the Museum, even then, before the Disney merger, they were talking about reinventing that in some way. Is this reinvention of these classic sort of movies kind of just literally inevitable? Something we get asked a lot all the time is, when is it going to be a chance to reboot Harry Potter? I'm like, I don't know, but we don't need it.
Did you say classic and Night at the Museum in the same sentence?
I wasn't necessarily referring to Night at the Museum.
Gotcha.
But Home Alone certainly, I think, is considered a classic. Yeah.
I mean, Planet of the Apes, it kind of makes sense. I almost want to see continuation though, because that the franchise as it is now is pretty good.
It's great.
But yeah, some of these other things, like I agree with you. When Harry Potter will eventually get rebooted.
Yeah,
eventually. You know what I mean? Like it's bound to happen.
Yeah.
So what other properties are they looking at? Die Hard maybe to be a reboot?
Well, Die Hard is another one that is in the Fox. It is in the Fox locker that they can do something with. I mean, I know there was plans for a sixth Die Hard movie. Yes. And so, that still could happen. That's been quiet for a while. I was going to call it Die Hard Year One or something. But another one that they've got in the locker is Cocoon, which I love. That I just recently bought them on eBay on DVD because they kind of they got taken off release. Cocoon and Cocoon: The Return is kind of fine, but Cocoon is a great movie. A really great movie, and I'm amazed that Fox hadn't even revisited that for a TV show or a remake even before the Disney merger. Do you think that could kind of be, one of the things they could tap into? And with that, do you think that would go theatrical rather than Disney Plus?
I think that's a Disney Plus series, though,
right? Yeah,
because I feel like there's different. What I've noticed too is a trend that sci-fi works better in streaming platforms than it does in film.
Yeah,
I mean, I personally loved Blade Runner. But nobody went to go see it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't know if sci-fi necessarily works on the big screen anymore. At least I don't know if an audience consumes it the same way.
I think you're right.
Like, one thing that I've noticed, this is going to off topic a little bit, but like Lost, right? I've noticed that people that binged Lost enjoyed it more than people that watched it week to week. So I don't know if this is just a sci-fi thing now.
Yeah. I mean, I think it is, and I think TV and even streaming platforms are kind of made more for that. I still find it weird when I recently and this is not related to Disney, but it kind of is because it's Hulu. The Act was on.
Yes.
And that was released on streaming on Hulu weekly. And I found that really frustrating because I couldn't just go and watch like the whole thing or watch like half a season, one night and then half a season the next night. I didn't have that option. It was really weird for streaming to do that weekly thing. I think you're right though. Planet of the Apes, I think, would really, if they did want to, it would be a shame if they didn't continue what they were doing because there is room in there. But I think that would lend itself more to a series. They couldn't take a Home Alone kind of property and do that as a series because what is it? Every single week burglars break into another person's house and there's another kid with another booby trap, and it's like somehow local news stations across the country wouldn't pick up on the fact there's this pattern across the United States of break-ins and japes. I mean, I think Night at the Museum could work. They're doing it as a movie, but it could work as a show.
It could work as a show.
I also think that Night at the Museum is way too soon.
Yes.
Because, I mean, as much as people feel very indifferent towards that franchise, I'm one of the rare people who actually enjoy it. With Robin Williams being attached to that and being so soon after his passing, I think that one needs to be put in the back burner for a while. Cheaper by the Dozen is also very odd for me because
that was a very strange choice.
Because Steve Martin did the first two. The second one didn't perform as strong as the first one.
Yeah.
And then, we have so many of those family-themed shows now. Just going to ABC, for example, now they have Mixed-ish, they have Grown-ish and all this stuff, and Fresh Off the Boat. They kind of have that already covered, that it's weird that they would want to redo those.
What's your thoughts on that, Joe?
I agree. Cheaper by the Dozen, man. I almost forgot that Steve Martin. It was
existed.
Steve Martin, Tom Welling, Hilary Duff.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't see a need for that personally. You're right. You're 100% right. Something like Modern Family is just about to end. Right. Blackish is on. You have so many of these family-based situational comedies that I don't know if adding another one's going to benefit at all. Or
it would have to be really different.
Really different.
Really different.
But it can be. Because Cheaper by the Dozen is already a remake of an older movie, which is just very, I don't know, like just a classic type story. Like it's very basic. There's nothing really that special. And on all the ABC shows, they already have all these great shows that are tackling all the different communities and things of that nature.
Do you know what I would love to see them do as a series? There were 2 movies that came out. One was sort of better received than the other. There is The Hard Way, which was a movie with Michael J. Fox and James Woods. I'd love to see that developed as a series. But also, I Love Trouble, which was a movie with Julia Roberts and Nick Nolte, which really didn't do very well. But I would love to see that as a Moonlighting-esque style show. I would really like to see that.
Well, they're starting. I mean, isn't Hulu now that they have 4 Weddings and a Funeral, the series now?
Yeah.
I mean, they're definitely moving into that. And you're right. Some of these old film properties work better as TV shows now. And I think that. I mean, who's to say? Maybe we get an Aliens TV show. Is that
well, that's another of the properties that they bought because of this. I mean, the article goes through a slew of things, and Apes is on there, and Aliens, but also Avatar. I mean, I would rather see an Avatar series than 2 or 3 more movies.
I feel like that production value per episode has to be pretty high, though. Because it just has to. And I'm not sure.
Have you seen some of the budgets on the Netflix shows?
That's a great point. Great point.
Huge.
The Crown is like $150 million per episode or something ridiculous like that.
I don't know. I don't know if
But it doesn't have to be Na'vi based. It can be.
That's true.
Like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It can be adjacent.
But I mean, I also think the experience of Avatar was really that 3D experience, and it's going to be really hard to reduplicate that at home.
I'm seriously not a fan of Avatar, I'll be honest with you.
Neither am I.
I
Believe
waited
me.
to see the extended version 3D re-release, bells and whistles, and I was like, I have no idea what the fuss was about. It looks great, but I'm like, that left me absolutely cold. Let's move on to something you mentioned, Scott, you brought this up. Disney pulling back on Fox film development after studio acquisitions disappointed in the 3rd quarter. I think, just weren't great movies. Stuber was not a great movie.
And whose fault was that? They saw that, they had that at South by Southwest.
Yeah.
They could have pulled that shit off the the lineup right away.
Yeah.
And what did they do? They spent all this money on marketing that. You know how much marketing dollars were spent? I think I read about that movie. It was like one of the biggest marketing pushes that they had this year. And it's like, and I mean, you could not avoid that movie.
Bad money after bad money, man.
Yeah. So you watch that movie at South by Southwest, you see that it had like a lukewarm reaction.
Yeah.
If you're getting a lukewarm reaction at a festival, pull that shit.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Like, that's just the way to do it.
No, absolutely.
And Dark Phoenix. That had problems from the get-go. Back before this merger thing was a thing. So I don't know why they just. And this is what I don't know what they're going to do with New Mutants. Because that.
I swear to God, I mean, I know they've kept moving it around the schedule. I would put money on that just getting pulled off the schedule and just going straight to Disney Plus.
Yeah, I think that's
seriously just stop trying to make New Mutants happen. Nobody cares, and Dark Phoenix totally pissed in the pool.
Yeah.
I just put it on Disney Plus. Make it an event movie. Don't expect people to pay $17 fucking to go and see it because that's burnt. It's burnt. Just don't.
Stuber, what they should have done is they should have gave it to Netflix.
Yeah.
It really, because that would have done well on Netflix.
There's another movie actually out this week that I think should have just been dumped to Netflix.
The Kitchen?
Really?
Dude, seriously. There are a number of movies this year that I've been so disappointed by. We'll get to that later in the show. But The Kitchen, man. Seriously. The fuck.
No comment.
Anyway, but yeah, so no, I think it's no real surprise that they're pulling back on some of the development stuff. We kind of saw a rumbling of this quite recently, and obviously there's the whole change with now Kevin Feige and others overseeing some of the properties that were Fox Marvel movies coming in and giving them that fold. I mean, I think that might be a wise choice, to be honest with you. I think that's fine. Still, people are saying we won't see an R-rated a Marvel movie. I'm pretty sure we're going to see an R-rated Marvel movie. We've seen it obviously previously with Deadpool, but I think, and someone made this point, I can't remember who it was online the other day, about the fact that you can do 2 edits. You can do the R-rated, and then you can do the Once Upon a Deadpool style edit.
David Leitch?
Yeah, which is like 13, and I'm like, great, do that. But when we discussed on the show previously, a lot of parents would just take their kids and see Deadpool anyway.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I don't think it really matters. But yeah, But yeah, so I think it'll be really interesting on seeing what they're cutting and what they're going to keep. I can't see any real logic. A lot of it is knee-jerky to me right now, and they're making some really odd choices with what they are pursuing and what they aren't. I mean, Joe, do you think this is going to settle down, or do you think this is... is this like just a little ripple in the water, or is this something that we're going to see really expanding and becoming more of a tsunami?
I think that their first line of business, especially with Disney Plus, is they already have a plan.
Yeah,
it's pretty obvious. They're banking on a lot of their live action Disney, like Lady and the Tramp. We just got more casting news about that. Sam Elliott's joining. We already know that the Mandalorian, which I'm really excited for, is going to be a thing. And all of these now, when they announced like 5 Marvel streaming things, so that's a ton. I think that they have a plan with the things that they already have. It's really about the integration of what they're going to do going forward. Now, I can't imagine them shelving something like Aliens. I just can't see it happening.
I see them taking it away from Ridley Scott.
I agree with that.
And stop doing the prequel stuff and just doing another Aliens movie.
I think that's a great idea, and I think that's probably in the pipeline. Some of these other things, it literally sounds like there's a dartboard and they're just throwing it.
Yeah, it does,
to see what sticks. Yeah, because it's very bizarre. Like cheaper by the dozen, I'm still like reeling with.
I mean, somebody must have a good idea for that they've gone in and gone, this is a great. Yeah, this is how we continue this, or this is how we change that. But,
I mean, the big thing is for this award season coming up.
Yeah.
Since they do own Fox Searchlight and they also own Fox now.
Yeah.
Ad Astra, I don't think is going to do very well. Ford versus Ferrari is going to do well for awards, but it's not going to be a box office gold mine.
Yeah.
Ready or Not, which I think we're not allowed to talk about it, but we've seen.
Yeah.
That's going to go nowhere. And their big one is really Jojo Rabbit.
Yeah.
Jojo Rabbit might be the one that's going to make the most, surprisingly, out of everything.
I'm going to be very interested to see how the public react to that, because I still think that is a movie that's made for people like us.
Yeah.
And not for the general audience.
It just depends how...
Taika, though.
Yeah, that's Taika. It's like they could bank on his name. This is the guy who's doing Thor.
Yeah.
Do it. Go see it.
Taika is a legit game changer, especially with the Thor franchise.
Yeah.
How he really brought new energy to that. I'm excited. I will watch Taika direct like the Puppy Bowl if they made it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. Okay, some thoughts from people in the chat on this, and then we're going to move on actually, because there was a lot to discuss there. Okay, Meet the Movie Players. Did you hear about Giancarlo Esposito possibly playing Magneto for the new X-Men reboot? We did. I think that's a great idea, guys. On board with that one. Dr. Pecker, Home Alone was John Hughes' most financially successful movie. Home Alone 1 and 2 were huge box office hits. They were. Kama Egan, Disney is a monster conglomerate and it will never hurt for profit. No, absolutely. But they'll make up the money they lose in other ways. So expect your theme park tickets to go up again. Janet James, in there, Disney are the Patriots banner football team of the movie industry. Yeah. Dr. Pecker, Night at the Museum aren't untouchable classics like, let's say, Back to the Future. Fuck, they haven't got access to Back to the Future. Yes. Janet James, rather see TV series out of some of those properties rather than films, to be honest. I think a lot of people agree. Chad Schultz, Die Hard, still the best Christmas movie. I know. I agree with you. Simon, don't forget Lethal Weapon. Lethal Weapon is actually featured in this piece that I wrote for Forbes 2 years ago. Zeno Hour, hello Zeno Hour. Dr. Pecker, I don't mind if they reboot the Alien franchise, even though I'm a big Ridley Scott fan. He's kind of lost his way in the Alien world a bit. I agree. I mean, I don't dislike the prequels as much as some people, but I think, it really just take it in a different direction. I binge Lost 4 times, Ryan. Ryan, hey, welcome to the chat this morning. Samuel Nerd, so how can they remake Home Alone for today, where it will take a phone call to take care of Kevin? Yeah, do you know what? That's absolutely true. It will be interesting to see what they do, whether they keep it simple. But I don't know. Mariko, true. I binged The Boys on Amazon Prime. Chad Schultz, I would rather them have a National Treasure series instead of Night at the Museum. Nick Cage is constantly trying to make National Treasure happen. There are a lot of people who really love those movies. I think a National Treasure series would be incredible.
I agree.
But would they stick it on Disney Plus, or would they want to stick that on network? I think they could potentially stick that on network.
See, I think it's a great draw with Disney Plus. You get Nick Cage back to do it.
Yeah.
I think that's actually whoever wrote that comment about.
Can he fit into his schedule though? I mean, dude, that guy is working like every single day. There's hardly a day that goes by without Nick Cage is playing anything at all. Some sort of cop, some sort of person trapped in a thing doing a stuff. Anthony Manzano, Joe, don't forget about the Lethal Weapon movie franchise. They would be cool to reboot for this generation. I watched a show that was okay. They cancelled after 3 seasons. I was upset about it. Yeah, I mean the TV show was very popular, but I really think a Lethal Weapon movie would be great. Reboot it as that series.
Yeah.
But what I don't want to see is them kind of to make it too comedy, like a 21 Jump Street with like a funny cop, straight cop kind of thing. I would rather have them go action cop with a little bit of humor in there, that Mel Gibson brought.
I mean, I feel like we already did get the Lethal Weapon reboot with Hobbs and Shaw.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. That's very, very true. Imagine James Wan doing Aliens or Predator reboot. Zeno out. Yeah, I don't think we're going to be getting another Predator movie anytime soon. Okay, guys, let's move on from that. Thank you to everybody in the chat and in the studio for that. Some really good discussion. Wesley Snipes, alive and well, and joining Eddie Murphy in Coming to America. Also, James Earl Jones is coming back for that. A lot of people are very happy about this. Wesley Snipes hasn't been on the big screen for a long time.
Do you know what his last movie was?
His last movie? Oh, shit. Was it Tu Wong Fu? Was it that long ago?
Was it really that long ago? Do you know?
No. He had some direct-to-video movies.
Oh, yeah. He's been working direct-to-video for a long time.
But I don't know what his last big screen
I don't know.
It wasn't Tu Wong Fu. It might actually be the last Blade movie.
It might have been the last Blade movie. Blade 3,
yeah.
Blade Trinity.
It definitely wasn't.
Yeah, probably Blade
Wong
Trinity.
Fu was like 90s.
Yeah.
Coming to America, though. Let me just say,
I don't know if we need this movie.
No, I'm going to say, I feel that we're getting a lot of these. It's so funny. This year and last year, we've been getting a lot of these second parts or sequels to films that came out 20 to 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And again, Blade Runner. I'm not sure if it's gonna work. I'm not sure if it makes any sense to do that. I can be honest with you, I'm not super excited about Coming to America 3. I mean, I think that it's 20 years too late.
Yeah. I just don't. I think people like the idea of these movies, and we saw it with Zoolander and a number of other movies a couple of years ago, where these sequels came out, and I think everybody likes the idea of wouldn't it be good if we had more of the same. Anchorman's another really good example as well, where it's like
Super Troopers 2?
Super Troopers 2. It's like people like the idea, but whether they would actually put their ass in a seat and pay $17 to see it, I honestly don't think the reality is there.
They like the idea on paper.
Yeah.
It's great to talk about what if we got this, but then when you actually get it, it's like, we didn't need that.
I also think, Paramount suffers greatly, because
they need something.
They need something. They have the Mission Impossible franchise, which is their version of Fast and Furious, although they don't make as much money as the Fast and Furious movies. Yeah. And they're really struggling. And I mean, they got lucky with Quiet Place, and they're going to probably milk that to death. I hate to say it, because they already have the second one coming out next year. And now they're doing Top Gun, hoping that that's going to have the same draw. And then you have Coming to America, which, of course, is a classic. But like you guys both said, I don't know if I'm on board for this. It just doesn't feel necessary. It feels so much like a cash grab.
It's a classic movie, but I think Coming to America came out at exactly the right time for that movie.
That's exactly it. To change the dynamic of that is going. I mean, it's not saying that they won't, because right now we live in an era where they could flip the dynamic and it could work brilliantly.
Yeah.
I just don't know if I'm confident enough for Paramount to have cracked the script that well, personally.
Can they do what they did with Coming to America today? Because there's a lot of content in that movie, and I don't mean some of the humor, but I'm just thinking that there's a lot of context in that movie that I just think really worked, again, as I say, for that time. But when you try and either replicate or change it, you change what worked about that movie as a movie as well, and you then try to shoehorn in contemporary stuff.
It's really difficult, because I think, like you guys have said, it was made for the time period.
Yeah.
And there's so many movies now that we see that, we look back on and we say that's inappropriate. My friend was at TCA this past week and was talking to Jim Carrey about Ace Ventura, and how like the stuff that was in there you can't do now because everyone would find it offensive. And it's getting to the point now we're so offended by everything that like we're going back like after 3 years, like there's something in something that we're gonna find and be like, that's offensive. And I don't think it's right. I don't think the time is now for this movie, and I think it should stay where it was because it was so reminiscent of that time period.
See, I think this is where Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg got it right with The Good Boys, is because they can do this raunchy comedy with kids, and it's totally passable because of the way that they did it. I think it just takes a little maneuvering to really get that get that going.
I disagree with that. I think what they're doing now with this, and it's funny because someone actually commented on my Good Boys review. I did not like the movie. Okay. I will.
I thought it was hilarious.
Putting it lightly.
Full disclosure. The thing is that we're pushing the envelope for younger and younger audiences to see these really, really raunchy comedies.
Yeah.
And I think there's become this big question, and I mean, there was a colleague of ours who went underneath attack for using certain words in a Dora review 2 weeks ago. And they were basically saying that with the way that the industry is going, with using kids as almost like these money-making machines and like pushing them, that it's just making it worse. And I can kind of see that.
I can see that, but I think that the movie still works for me. I know that you probably disagree. It still worked for me, and I thought it was smart enough to kind of take this raunchy comedy in a different direction. However, I do agree with your point that you can't use that pony a lot, though.
Let's also look at the fact that Wesley Snipes, James Earl Jones, Eddie Murphy, not box office draws.
No.
You have the heritage because of the original movie, but when was the last time any of those people... Okay, James Earl Jones, yes, is back in The Lion King.
Eddie Murphy as Shrek is the only thing.
Eddie Murphy as Shrek is the only time that he's
Shrek,
really...
His donkey, but yeah.
And it's going to have to coast on heritage, but it's also going to have to be a damn good movie to really make a mark and not have egg on its face.
I mean, you're right. Getting people to the theater to see that is going to be the biggest task.
Yeah.
And that's going to have to do with the marketing as well. And all that's going to have to be on point. I'm surprised they haven't rebooted Police Academy.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, they're fucking trying. So, I mean, Steve Guttenberg, seriously, that and Three Men and a Baby, he's rebooted. I mean, I believe they are still working on it.
Are they?
Warner Brothers, I believe, are still working on that movie. It keeps coming up in sort of, because they hired guys to write and then they recast and all that. And they had people lined up, fundamentally. I know it got to almost a casting position where they were due to announce, like, who was going to be involved in it. I think it just kind of shelved and on the back burner. But again, Police Academy, a movie that I love, you couldn't do a lot of stuff.
No, you'd have to...
a lot of the race stuff, a lot of the sex stuff, a lot of the sexuality stuff, just general, a lot of the PC stuff, you just couldn't do now.
Especially the reputation that cops have in the United States currently. It would be a different movie.
It would be very different.
Jeff in the booth real quick.
Yeah, sure.
The only other crazy thing about this sequel to Coming to America is the premise of the first one's a fish out of water story.
Yeah.
So narratively, I don't know what they're going to do here. I would have preferred a reboot with, a younger actor rather than bringing these characters back to tell a story that I don't think can work based on what we saw in the first film.
I believe that has actually been considered. That was one of the ideas that they were originally throwing around because they didn't know if they could get Eddie Murphy to come back and do it or if they wanted Eddie Murphy to come back and do it. So I think that was actually an idea that was entertained by Paramount. But again, then, a lot of people who were they like the original Coming to America, they went to Coming to America because Eddie Murphy was the biggest person. Like, he was the biggest star on the planet when that movie was made. Everybody knew him. And I think, you'd need someone, again, who had that. Otherwise, it would just feel like a straight-to-DVD ripoff. But I agree that would have been I would have preferred to have seen that. A lot of people have thoughts on this. Okay, let's talk about it. Joe, would it be cool for them to remake the movie Serpico? Interesting choice. Maybe Coming to America can work in some satire using current attitudes and ice. This is from Marika True. Yeah, absolutely. But again, you don't want to be seen to be making light of that kind of thing. You have to handle that correctly. Otherwise, it seems really flippant. Jenna James, Paramount has Rugrats, Rango, Over the Hedge, SpongeBob. There is work on SpongeBob.
Yes.
Wild Thornberrys, Rise of the Guardians. We won't be seeing another of those.
Nope.
Charlotte's Web, Barnyard, Flushed, The Adventures of Tintin, Madagascar. Well, I mean, the Tintin sequel's been in the works for God knows how long now. Madagascar, Flushed Away, and yeah, they do have all of these things, but a lot of those properties are not properties that anybody really gives a shit about. Right. You know, I mean, I like things like Over the Hedge, but it really didn't do phenomenally well. They're not going to go back to that well. Going up, this is like the Carrie movies, as far as I can know. The first one came out in 1976, and then they made a sequel in 1999. Jenna James, Cool World. I would love to see.
I love Cool World.
Yeah,
that's a great one.
That is a great choice there, Jenna James. Cool World was my jam in the 90s, Jenna James. That was from King Sport Cal. There are a couple of movies that came out in the 90s that really were ahead of their time and didn't do well. I'm always talking about Last Action Hero, and also Cool World is another one.
Last Action Hero is great.
Dude, seriously, if that was made today, that would be fucking huge. Eddie Murphy is going back to stand-up. He is, but again, Eddie Murphy said that a lot of the stuff that he would do in stand-up that he did in the 80s, he cannot do now.
You know, I'm surprised Blumhouse hasn't remade They Live.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
like John Cena or The Rock playing that Roddy Piper role.
Dude, I've spoken to Jason about that. Jason Blumhouse Corner. I've actually spoken to Jason about that, and a couple of other properties that I've discussed with Jason. Some of which I know he's actually doing, which would be very interesting. So don't discount that.
I would love They Live.
Yeah.
Anthony. Yeah, we'll get the Serpico remake's kind of off topic, Anthony, but we've obviously mentioned that on the show. Anthony wants to know Serpico remake about it being a classic, too much of a classic for a remake. No, I mean they were talking about doing a Serpico remake. There was talk of that a couple of years ago.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So that's not sort of a new stuff really. Chad Schultz, how about a Cool Runnings remake instead of a Cool World remake? No, you can't remake that movie. That's we've already done that.
You know what, Mighty Ducks though.
Yes, they could do that.
Mighty Ducks absolutely could happen.
Jenna James saying Shrek and Bebe's Kids, also Paramount properties.
Yeah,
I loved Bebe's Kids because seriously, I was obviously growing up white in the UK, had no reference for Bebe's Kids, but seriously, Bebe Kids, I absolutely love that movie. I was like the only person that rented that movie from my video store.
That's great.
How about a House Guest remake?
Can we do that? Kids. I loved it. Seriously, great. Okay, let's move on from this. We've got a couple of things to talk about on the show today. Really great response from everybody today, and thanks to the guys in the studio. Annapurna Pictures may be exploring the idea of bankruptcy. Megan Ellison this week apparently has no intention to shut down the company. Megan Ellison might have no intention to shut down the company, but I'm thinking perhaps that might not ultimately be her choice. Guys, how do you solve a problem like Annapurna?
I mean, this almost goes back to what Scott was saying earlier about like Ford and Ferrari not making that enough money. Whereas they had last year, they had Vice. You know what I mean? So
Beale Street, dude. Beale Street.
Yeah,
Beale Street.
Oh my God,
I forgot about that.
Yeah, they spent all that money on the campaign and it did nothing.
Exactly.
Made less than Moonlight, which is not a big claim either, because Moonlight did not make much money.
That's exactly right. And I mean, look, they don't have tentpole movies. It's not a sustainable thing in this era of filmmaking. It just isn't.
I think it's really interesting that the topics that they have backed and pushed over the last couple of years, I don't know whether they've tried to follow a woke zeitgeist rather than actually making and pushing movies that are really good. I mean, Beale Street I thought was phenomenal, but you try and sell that to people outside of a more highbrow audience and they're not going to engage with it. Detroit, I think they handled horribly because I think they sold a movie that was very different to the movie that people paid to see. And I think that it wasn't the movie that should have been. And Vice, again, I think just didn't, for me as a movie, work. It felt very samey to the director's previous work, and it just didn't say enough, or it was almost like a history lesson that kind of it didn't add anything to the table, or the mechanics that they used, the MacGuffins that they used, you'd already seen, so it didn't have that impact.
They also had Professor Marsden, which I loved, Went Nowhere.
Nobody saw.
Sister's Brother, which I like. I saw that at Toronto, and I was kind of like, why are they releasing this? Like, who's going to watch this movie? But they put out an award campaign for it.
And let me guess, nobody watched the movie.
No.
Yeah.
Literally nobody watched that.
No.
And I'll be honest with you, people I do know who've come across that movie by accident, whether it's on a plane or whatever, because they didn't see it in theaters, they're always, because of C. Riley being in it and it having sister in the title and brother, they're like, is it like a follow-up to, or just like a Step Brothers type movie? And it's really not. I just think their marketing has been all over the place, and I think their decisions on the movies they've been making they've both just been off of center, and I think they haven't been able to get the cogs of the wheel to fit, to make it turn. I mean, Detroit was handled fucking terribly.
Don't even get me started on Destroyer.
Oh, God, Destroyer.
Yeah, that was another one.
What happened with that movie?
They don't know.
It's part of the problem that they're trying to be. I mean, there are audiences that are really hungry right now for really good storytelling. So people want these stories to be told. They want really good stories. But Annapurna don't appear to be picking the stories that the people want to hear or see.
But outside of big blockbuster tentpole movies, what are we really seeing people react to?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a hard line. I mean, I know during Oscar season we're seeing more people watching those Oscar films, but throughout the rest of the year, I feel like it's week to week some kind of tentpole from a studio.
Yeah.
And I think that's a problem. I don't know. I think that they have to just restructure their business model. I think the marketing is handled poorly.
Yeah.
I think that you were talking about Vice earlier. I mean, you're right. It didn't really add anything. The spectacle was really Christian Bale transforming into Dick Cheney. That
was the thing.
That was it, though.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all there was to it. So I'm not Destroyer. Like, what happened?
That was not a great movie.
No.
I mean, I thought Nicole Kidman was great in that movie, but that was not a great movie.
And I will tell you my solution to this is, it kind of ties into what Joe was saying, is that you have to have product. And what you have to have, unfortunately, in this marketplace is that you have to have something that's bankable and will sell. And then you have to have one or two award quality movies. You can't have, when you're a small company like they had last year, you can't have 5 or 6 movies and then do a marketing campaign for 5 and 6 movies. They also had Sorry to Bother You, which they completely ignored during award season, which was one that a lot of people really liked.
That was
different. And they actually could have marketed that to a community where they don't normally get to market to.
Yeah.
But they decided, let's put Destroyer instead.
So here's a question on the marketing and the point that you just made kind of together, really, and my point as well. Do you think they're picking movies that they think are awards movies rather than movies that are the best movies to put out there?
It's almost like an actor choosing a film.
I hear about that.
That's all about, like, hey, I want to do this for the art. Yeah. But then I also need the money, so I'm going to do like the Avengers. You know what I mean? Like, it feels like there needs to be something like that. Well, which is interesting because if you look at something like The Boys, it's on Amazon.
Yep.
If they would have just picked up something like that, that could have been a decent enough tentpole for them to sustain. But I don't know. It's very bizarre to me.
I mean, there's also part of it the fact that there are so many of these huge tentpole movies that are taking up so many of the screens. Even when they have a good movie, they just can't get it out there enough for people to see it. That it is just overshadowed. And also, I've got to be honest with you, there were several Annapurna movies last year that I was desperate to see and support. And trying to get to see those movies, to be able to do anything editorial on them, was like trying to find a fucking chicken with teeth. It was almost impossible.
It's the worst sometimes. I don't understand that, too, with some of the studios who they're inviting to what. Mainly because they want as much exposure as they can get. So for them to be as limited as they are with certain films does not make sense whatsoever.
No.
And what bothers me about that is when they do public screenings where they combine press and public, but they will turn down press knowing that they're letting people off the street into something who may have given that movie their own money. It's mind-boggling to me.
That is something I'm struggling with. It's an increasing trend in the industry right now, and I find that very, very weird.
I mean, I don't have a problem with that as long as they're banking on the film being good and it gets the word of mouth to get more people to see the film. That's all right. But if it's something that they're just kind of testing, that's a bigger issue.
Yeah. No, I think it's kind of interesting. I mean, there are a lot of big movies at the moment that are testing. We were talking about this before we came on air. Joker's had some testing screenings. Dr. Sleep had a test screening here in Greater Los Angeles last night. So a couple of these big movies, they are already putting them out there.
I'm hearing great things about the Joker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Warner Brothers knows they have something on their hands with that.
I think people always say that, superhero movies or comic book movies are never really getting the awards, love that they deserve. I think the Joker is going to be the first one that's really going to come through this year.
I am so damn excited.
And just go alpha leather with that one. I expect big stuff from that movie this year. Interesting stuff in the chat on this as well. Watch 310 to humor, then come to me, bro. Don't start a fight over Western movies. Zeno Hour, Annapurna should have focused on low-budget horror and comedies with some Oscar-caliber movies until they got a tentpole movie. Zeno Hour, I think that's a really good point, actually.
Yes.
I think that's exactly what they should have done. Chad Schultz, what is their largest grossing film? Sausage Party? I think it is.
I think it is,
yeah. I mean, but I also really enjoyed that movie.
So did I.
Zero Dark 30 was unbelievable. Destroyer was great, so was Blind Spotting. Blind Spotting, another movie that literally...
I love Blind Spotting.
Dude, but nobody saw that movie, and nobody knew that fucking movie existed. This is the problem.
Yeah, and it's even with the junket, they combine that with what was the basketball movie? Oh man, it was terrible.
Uncle Drew.
Uncle Drew. They combined the junket with Uncle Drew. So if you did Uncle Drew, you also got Blind Spotting, which was weird to me.
That's so insulting, too, isn't it?
But Blind Spotting is by far the better film. It was crazy to me.
King's Court Cal, the light suddenly went on. King's Court Pal saying, waiting on Collider Live to start. I'm not on there today, but thank you. Kat, this Annapurna thing will also affect the Annapurna Interactive division that handles the video games. That will be bad for both the film industry and the video game industry. To be honest with you right now, I think the video game industry's biggest threat is not audiences, but is the administration.
Yes.
So I really wouldn't worry too much about the industry side of things. I think there are going to be other things that are seriously going to dent that market in the next year if we're not really, really careful. Okay, a couple of things I want to get through before we have 18 minutes left on the show, so I want to just touch on some news very quickly before we get a box office and reviews. Blumhouse Corner. Happy Death Days. Christopher Landon's going to direct a new horror film for Blumhouse. It's going to be an original movie. There isn't going to be another Happy Death Day movie. That second one looks like it killed it stone dead. I don't even think Netflix is going to pick up a third one, which I'm kind of ashamed because I love the first Happy Death Day movie.
I love Happy Death Day.
Yeah, it's such a good movie, and the 2 was like, oh man, you totally lost me. But apparently it's going to be basically about it. It's just like the description is like there's a killer on the loose, basically. And I'm like, okay, you're either going to do something.
Is this Home Alone?
That's what it is. It's
deadly Home Alone. But yeah, it's kind of like that's all they've given out at the moment. But I'm going to have to assume that there is something to it more than that, because nobody, and especially Blumhouse, wouldn't go in an elevator pitch if you had 90 seconds with Jason. You're like, there's a killer on the loose. Jason's like, okay, see you tomorrow. See you. So there's going to be something very sexy in that. I like Christopher Landon. I like his work. I think the second one was misguided, but I want to see more from him. You guys?
Big fan. Happy Death Day. I love that movie. It's like a guilty pleasure for me.
It's so original. I don't think there's even anything guilty about it, to be honest with you. It's just so completely different. And they put it out there at Halloween Horror Nights, as an entity way before the movie'd come out. So people went in cold and really enjoyed that movie. I think that actually helped the marketing. You're a Happy Death Day fan.
Oh, yeah.
Did you like the second one?
No.
No, you didn't. And also, let's all talk about another... it's not a Blumhouse movie, but Jason Blum co-produced it.
Yes.
I wrote a piece on this for Forbes this week about the tethering of Blum's brand and Halloween Horror Nights, which I just mentioned. Us is going to get a maze at Halloween Horror Nights in Orlando and in Hollywood this year. Tremendous. I know I spoke to the guys behind it, John Murdy and his team, a couple of years ago about maybe doing a Get Out one, because I thought that would have been really good. But they were kind of like they didn't know how they could actually make that manifest. But I think Us actually works better. Yeah. I would have combined Us and Get Out. I would have done 2 together. Jordan Peele double bill. The double sandwich. Do that.
And then go to the end, you get the Twilight Zone.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
That would have been pretty cool. Maybe next year. Excited about the Us maze? Do you guys go to Halloween Horror Nights?
Yeah,
I do.
You excited?
Yeah. I think. Look, the only thing that I have against these things is there's so many people, and when they filter you into these mazes and you're jump scaring the person in front of you, you already know what's coming.
Yeah.
So it's just I'm not. The media nights are great. Where it's just like you going, but yeah, the general public, I'm not super excited for those.
It's funny. Every single year, I get invited to go and do stuff behind the scenes, sort of when they're putting the mazes together. And the maze that I usually get offered is the one that I'm most excited about, and I always pass on that one and go for a different one, because when I want to do that big maze that I'm really, really psyched about, I really want to make sure that I shit my pants, and I don't want any of that stuff spoiled. Like, there's going to be a guy here, and then we're going to have this happening. I want to experience that stuff fresh. They're also doing Creepshow for the new Shudder reboot of Creepshow. I'm pretty psyched about that. They're going to do that as like different stories you're going to walk through, which I think will be really cool. Didn't quite work for me last year when they did Trick or Treat. That didn't kind of work for me enough, but I am curious to see Creepshow.
So what's your favorite maze that you're looking forward to? It seems like you're into this.
This year, Us, I'm very excited about. Ghostbusters, I'm very excited about. Killer Clowns from Outer Space, I'm very excited about. And there are a couple of original properties. They have a couple more mazes to announce for this year. So I'm super psyched to find out what those are. Stranger Things is back again this year to do season 2 and season 3. Stranger Things was great last year, but it's really some of those film things that I'm interested in. I'm very interested to see what they're doing with Creepshow. This year is going to be a very strong year. There's no Terror Tram this year, so I think they've put more effort into creating the mazes, which I think is great. So, Scott, either of those appeal to you?
I mean, I'm still excited for the Ghostbusters one.
I'm super psyched.
That's the one I'm most excited for.
Yeah. And other bit of news this week: the Eternals design Captain Marvel actress Gemma Chan, but possibly in a different role. I liked her in Captain Marvel, but I don't think they did enough with her.
No.
Here's the thing. I think the character Minerva just sounds like an Eternal.
Yeah.
Not saying that she's going to be playing the same character, but look, the MCU's done a great job of changing characters around and changing their history around.
Yeah.
And I think that Gemma Chan could play Minerva in the Eternals. I mean, there's nothing saying that she isn't.
Yeah.
But who knows? Maybe they are just casting her as a completely different role. I mean, wouldn't be the first, right? I mean, we got Mahershala Ali playing Blade, but he also was Cottonmouth in the Netflix.
That is true. That is true. That was the first time I interviewed Mahershala. It was for a movie that he did with Matthew McConaughey, and nobody was particularly excited about him at the time. It was like, he's this, this kind of new actor, and he was just about to go and do that, and it was kind of like, okay, fine, and then all of a sudden it was like, poof, he blew up, and now it's like he's the main one in the junket. He's the main one, and everyone else follows through. Okay, guys, thanks for the chat on that this week. Really appreciate it. A lot of people chatting about the stuff that we've just discussed. Zeno, I was saying Gemma Chan is about to break out. Absolutely. Kane Egan saying Killer Clowns from Outer Space is one that is a great guilty pleasure bad movie you've got to love. Absolutely. I was very jealous when Orlando got that maze last year and LA didn't, but finally we're getting it this year. Dr. Pecker, Creepshow should be the title of the Harvey Weinstein biopic directed by Adam McKay. And Den no comment. And Den of Heroes. It's a very unique and different horror experience. Jenna James obviously talking about Halloween Horror Nights earlier in there. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. Super psyched about Halloween Horror Nights this year. Okay, let's talk about box office. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark is leading this week of all the new releases. Thursday, 2.33 in previews from around 2,500 locations. Performance is better than Escape Room and Pet Sematary, which is cool. Dora and the Lost City previews 1.25 million on Thursday, which is pretty good. That's ahead of a number of others that came out that are kind of similar things or at this time of year. And then The Art of Racing in the Rain starting its opening weekend with an estimated 450,000 from Thursday night previews. I really thought there'd be more than that. I thought that would be perhaps 1 million for Thursday night previews.
It's Fox again, which therefore goes to show you.
I literally got nothing on that movie, nothing at all. And then an email to say, would you support it? I know, I don't know what's going on right now. Box office looking like Lion King potentially going back to the top this week here in the US, 22.4 million. Then Fast and Furious in second place, Hobbs and Shaw, 22. Strong weekend last weekend, but not as much as I expected. No. It was kind of about 15 to 20 below kind of where I was expecting it to land. So we'll see what happens this weekend. Dora and the Lost City of Gold is probably going to be in third place, 20.5. Scary Stories landing in fourth, 16 million this weekend. Rounding out the top five, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, 11.8. The Art of Racing in the Kitchen there, sort of Six and seven in the top 10. That's according to Box Office Mojo's predictions for the weekend. Very interesting. Couple of movies coming out this weekend. Some which I think are really flying under the radar. Let's talk about the Peanut Butter Falcon first of all. Scott, you have seen this one.
Yes.
I've heard a lot of great things about this movie. Give us an idea about it, sort of, kind of briefly, really.
Okay, so it's about this kid with Down syndrome who escapes from this hospital, and he meets up with Shia LaBeouf's character, who's kind of like this drifter, and basically he helps him follow his dreams of meeting his wrestling icon. Shia LaBeouf, I think, is on a rebound this year.
The Buff is back.
Yeah, he is back. And he has a movie called Honey Boy that came out at Sundance, which is phenomenal, and it's going to be opening for this award season. And this is just another case where I see that it's him making his way back, and it's great performance. But I really love the fact that they actually chose an actor who has Down syndrome to actually play the character of Zach in the movie. And I believe that the gentleman's name in real life is Zach. I don't know his last name. Yeah. But the two of them just have this great pairing, and it's just this really heartfelt and touching story that's not too cheesy. And just really works. It's a fantastic film, and I'm glad.
Things like Down syndrome, where it is a physical disability that is a genetic disability, it is one of those areas where the industry is forced to hire someone who does have that condition, rather than we see this a lot in Hollywood where it's like we can just put a regular actor in a wheelchair and get them to play someone who's in a wheelchair or whatever.
We did have I Am Sam.
I Am Sam is a really good example, actually, where Hollywood didn't, and I think you should. I think wherever. I mean, you also have to make sure that they're good enough for the job. Yeah, so you have to. Sure. That has to be a fact. You can't have someone who isn't good enough for the job. So this guy's obviously excelled in both of those requirements, fitting the casting requirement, but also being able to do it. But yeah, I mean, I remember when I Am Sam came out, and there was a controversy, and then still to this year, there's a lot of controversy over that. But it's good to see Hollywood doing this. Peanut Butter Falcon is something I do want to check out.
Me too.
The Art of Racing in the Rain is another one you've seen, Scott, which you really like by the sounds of it.
Yes, it's a family-friendly film.
Like The Good Boys.
Like The Good Boys, very much so. The same movie, actually.
There are going to be a lot of parents who are going to take kids to see The Good Boys, and I'm seeing it on Monday, but I'm guessing it's really not a family movie.
No. But The Art of Racing in the Rain is another film that, unfortunately, I think is going to suffer from the whole Fox-Disney merger.
Yeah.
It stars Amanda Seyfried and my guy Milo from This Is Us.
Yep.
And
Milo Ventimiglia.
Yeah, he's just so great.
Bless you.
And and it's an interesting film because it's being marketed as like this talking dog movie, but it's really a lot more than that. I feel it deals a lot with someone who has a dream and basically having to deal with stuff that happens in life.
Yeah.
And a lot of the things that happen in this film are very sad and depressing, but to see them in a family film, it's kind of realistic, and it's something that a parent who takes their kids to see this, there's going to be a discussion that's going to happen after this movie, and I think that's what's important about it.
Right. Okay. I think that's really cool. That sounds like it's something that's definitely worth checking out. We were talking about people getting taster screenings at the moment. Den of Heroes saying, I saw a preview of a John Cena firefighter film and almost barfed in my mouth. Genuinely, I saw a standee for that. I think it was at the AMC Century City.
It is.
And I was like, I didn't know if it was a real movie because it looks like. Is this have someone found a standee from like 1993?
Nickelodeon production,
right?
And I thought it was a Nickelodeon movie, like coming out on Nickelodeon, like I did, no joke. And then I saw it, I was like, what? This is like a real film.
A real thing
coming out. Wow.
This exists.
This got green light.
How interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Let's
Paramount, baby.
Paramount. It's a good year to be Paramount. When they've got great movies like Rocket Man that just not enough people saw. My Blu-ray turned up yesterday for Rocket Man. I'm so fucking happy about that.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got 7 minutes left on the show. I haven't seen Dora. I went to a gig this week, so I wasn't able to make the screening. Dora and the Lost City of Gold is getting better buzz than I kind of expected this movie to get. Yeah.
I thought it was a lot of fun. Did you see it?
Yeah.
I thought it was a lot of fun. It reminds me a lot of like some of the movies we were talking about. Nickelodeon movies, yeah.
Right.
And I like that. Really, it's Dora exploring high school for a lot of the movie. So. It's just a fun concept, and there's elements of Indiana Jones or like National Treasure or some of these films, but it is fun.
You know what I think what's interesting about it, and a lot of people have been commenting, I tweeted something out about this a couple days ago, and I said that this is almost like a game changer for little girls, and actually, I know this is not the right term, but like children of color. You know, there's very few movies where you get to see a Hispanic lead, and that girls can actually watch that and relate to.
Yeah.
And I feel like this really is important for this movie to succeed on that level.
Yeah.
Because the entire cast is Hispanic, right? Minus like two people, minus like two kids.
Even right. Even some of the voices for
even the monkey is Danny Trejo, right?
Danny Trejo, and then Swiper the Fox is Benicio del Toro.
Right.
So I mean, the cast is stacked.
Yeah.
And the film's not bad. And I really do. And people should really go see it. I mean, and they don't shy away from the Latino culture whatsoever, which is great. And it just so naturally works in the film.
Well, I think that's the key is that it naturally, because then people who would have a problem with this potentially don't really have much of a beef because it's not shoehorned. It feels natural.
And it's also self-aware, which I think is another thing that's
which
great.
Is cool.
It's kind of like, it reminded me in some ways of like the Brady Bunch movies.
Right, exactly right.
Where they were very much, they know how cheesy this idea was, so they just mock it.
I mean, it's the director of the Muppets.
Yeah,
like I mean, it's
James Bobbin.
Yeah,
which I didn't realize this was him until I read it. I was like, is it?
I mean, I thought he did a great job with this film.
Awesome. The Kitchen is a movie that's out this week. I'm amazed it's in theaters. I'll be honest with you. One of the movies that this year, it looks amazing and the soundtrack is fantastic and it sounds great, but this movie is so.
I heard it was better when it was called Widows.
It's basically Widows, but not as good. And at no point do you feel there are any real stakes. There's one moment where it peaks, and then they go, "Oh, okay, this is no, that's it. No, back to being." It's so dull. It is so monotone. It is so. Those women are great potentially, and they put in great performances, but the movie is so fucking beige and bland.
Tiffany Haddish, you would say?
I thought she was. I really liked her in this.
Really?
I liked her doing more serious. I could tell that she was on the brink of wanting to break out and do sass.
I felt like well, that's what I'm telling you. The entire time, I just felt like she was like,
Tiff, don't.
Like, I just like.
Yeah, she was seriously. She was this far away from breaking out the sass, and I'm like, I'm glad she didn't. I liked her in this. I want to see more dramatic stuff from her.
How about Margot Martindale, right?
Yeah, Margot Martindale.
Oh my God, how
what a fucking pointless character.
Yeah.
Terribly done. She was almost like you're about to break out and do this, kind of almost pastiche of this style of character.
Wow, and
horribly handled.
And I was so disappointed that I didn't get to do the junket. Now I might thank my lucky stars.
It's a really. I'm confused about how anybody thought that this final result was what they were aiming for, and they didn't just go back to the drawing board and completely. It's so dull.
And for a movie that's so strong on feminism, it's like a slap in the face.
Dude, there's so much here they could have really played with, but they don't. This is a movie that I've seen more people go for toilet breaks during than any other movie I've seen this year. People didn't mind leaving the movie theater because they knew that pretty much nothing was going to fucking happen. It is such a wasted opportunity. It genuinely is. I was just at the end. I was like, that. I feel quite offended. It was 90 minutes, give or take. And it feels like it's 2.5 hours long.
Simon, tell me how you really feel.
Genuinely, I was twitchy. I kept shifting in my seat. At one point, I almost nodded off. Seriously, I was so disappointed with this movie.
Did you have people laughing in your theater where you couldn't tell whether or not they were laughing at the movie or at the I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was weird. It was really,
so bizarre.
It's really weird.
Yeah.
Also out this weekend, I just can't recommend that people pay to see The Kitchen. I'd be pissed if I paid $17 to see that.
Me too.
I'd be really pissed. It just such a disappointment. Sorry, Warner Brothers. I mean, I had to beg them to get to this screening, because I wanted to see this movie, and now I know why you're not really showing this around a lot. It was in the screening was like half full. I think a lot of people were seeing 47 meters down, but that was an early screening. Okay, scary stories to tell in the dark. We've got a couple of minutes left on the show. Guys, tell me what you thought of this one. I'm seeing really mixed stuff on this.
Some
people loved it, and some people are like, this is dog shit. So, Scott, your thoughts on this?
No.
Dude, I saw more movies than you this week.
I think so.
That's
crazy.
Or maybe just
weird.
Netflix occupied my time.
I was going to say, you got to spend some time with Marlon Wayans instead.
Again, we're really sorry about that. That movie's coming to Netflix. No fucking surprise.
Yeah,
Scary
no one's going to
Stories.
see it. I had a conversation with a friend yesterday when I was at the 47 meters down screening. Guillermo has become this guy like Quentin Tarantino and James Wan, where like they put their name on these movies, where like presents.
Eli Roth does that a lot.
Eli
too.
Roth,
Yeah.
and I always feel like they're lesser films.
Yeah.
And I love this book series. This was by far my favorite book series growing up.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see this movie as an anthology series, or as he spoke about earlier, about being like a Netflix series, something like that.
Yeah.
I think that would have made this incredible because the creatures look great. It's that central story.
Physical effects.
The physical effects are great, but the story is crap. The performances are mediocre at best.
That's really disappointing.
It's a very average movie. And my struggle is that I don't know where this fits in a world where we have a movie like Goosebumps and like the Clock on the Walls or whatever the heck that's called, and it. I don't know where that fits in between there.
Yeah.
Or if it even fits in between there.
Oh, interesting. I know some people have come out and they've been absolutely raving about that movie, but I'm seeing more things that are negative. I'm probably going to check it out if I have time over the next week.
It's a
but
matinee
fine isn't good enough right now in the movie theaters, and August is a bust for me so far.
Yeah.
Okay, Mariko True heard awful things about The Kitchen, but it has such good actors. Yeah, guessing they forgot about employing writers. Well, actually, the film is directed by someone who was a great writer.
Yes.
And this just is like, some people can do two things, and this is not their strong point. But even the script in this is not great. I'm so sorry for this movie. Dana Heroes, I would love to see America Chavez on the big screen. Jenna James, yes. Goldman Vision, Kitchen Ain't Bitchin', that's a bummer. Yeah, no, absolutely. And Kame Egan, I guess you could say shit or get out of the kitchen. I would just say, if you can't stand the heat, watch The Heat. Because it's better than The Kitchen. Guys, thank you so much for being on the show this week. Scott Menzel, who are you? Where can we find you?
Thank you so much for having me. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at TheOtherScottM, or go to WeLiveEntertainment.com.
Joe, welcome back. Who are you? Where can we find you?
Yo, you can find me at that hashtag Joe on all social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Screen Rant, and that hashtag show.
Fantastic. Need to let you go because you're going to head straight to a junket, so thank you so much for that. My name is Simon Thompson, at Showbiz Simon on Instagram and Twitter. There's a Facebook page. This is Simon Thompson. You can see my work everywhere, but I have a lot of stuff coming up on Forbes as well at the moment. Thank you so much for watching the show. We really appreciate it. Without you, there is no show, so thank you for tuning in. If you like, subscribe, leave comments below. We really appreciate that. Tell everybody you like about the show. If you listen to us on Apple or Podcast, make sure that you leave a review. I really appreciate that. Because we are here, and we'll be back again next week. Thank you so much. Watch a movie, but I honestly can't say this weekend The Kitchen is the one to go and see. And follow us on Twitter at Meet Movie Press. We will see you here next week. Thanks so much.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network. The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.